The old bus rumbled down the dusty road, kicking up leaves and dust. Inside, 5 camp counsellors, giddy and apprehensive, bounced in their seats. The sun dipped below the horizon as they pulled up to the dilapidated camp gates. A rusted sign read Camp Blood Creek, established 1957. The camp lay before them, decaying cabins around a stagnant, algae-covered lake. A sense of unease settled upon them, heavy and unwelcome. The first night, a thick fog rolled in, blanketing the camp in an ethereal mist. The counsellors, huddled around a crackling fire, swapped scary stories, their laughter strained. John, usually withdrawn, kept glancing nervously into the darkness beyond the firelight. "Anyone else feel like we're being watched?" he mumbled, his voice barely audible. The others laughed it off, but a seed of doubt had been planted. The laughter died down. The silence returned, heavier, more ominous. The next morning, Lauren was gone. Her cabin was empty, her bed untouched. Her belongings were still there, neatly arranged, as if she had just stepped out. The only sign of disturbance was a single bloody handprint on the dusty floor. Panic set in. Mark, trying to remain calm, insisted Lauren had probably just gone for a walk. Lisa, pale and trembling, argued that something wasn't right. John, his eyes wide with terror, kept repeating, "I told you! I told you!" And Sarah, her heart pounding in her chest, tried desperately to make sense of the situation. The phone lines were dead. The old radio only emitted static. They were alone, cut off from the outside world. The search for Lauren proved fruitless. The dense woods surrounding the camp seemed to swallow sound, their calls for her echoing back to them, empty and hollow. As dusk descended, painting the sky in hues of blood, orange and bruised purple, they stumbled upon a gruesome discovery. By the lakeshore, half hidden in the reeds, lay Lauren's phone. The screen was cracked, the metal casing twisted and bent, and smeared across its surface a thick, dark substance that sent chills down their spines. Blood. The discovery shattered their last shred of hope. Lauren wasn't lost. She had been taken. The realization hung in the air, a suffocating weight. Fear, raw and primal, tightened its grip on their hearts. They were no longer caretakers of children. They were prey. The remaining counsellors barricaded themselves in the main lodge, a sturdy, albeit dilapidated structure. The windows were boarded shut, the doors locked and bolted. Inside, the air was thick with fear and suspicion. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of leaves outside the windows sent them jumping. Sleep was a distant memory, replaced by a constant state of hypervigilance. They huddled together, seeking solace in numbers, their eyes darting nervously in the flickering lamplight. Whispers seemed to emanate from the walls, faint and indistinct, yet filled with malice. Shadows danced in the corners, taking on sinister shapes. The wind howled outside, a mournful, almost human cry that sent shivers down their spines. John, his face pale and drawn, swore he saw a figure lurking in the woods, a fleeting glimpse of something dark and malevolent. His warnings were met with a mixture of fear and disbelief. But deep down, they all felt it. Something was out there, something evil, and it was toying with them. Section 5. A ghastly discovery. Blood-soaked laundry. 2 days later, Mark vanished. He disappeared from the locked and bolted lodge, leaving no trace. The old laundry room was splattered with blood. Washing machines churned with a viscous crimson tide. The smell of blood filled the air, a gruesome testament to the horrors. Section 6. The haunting truth, a spirit of vengeance. Huddled in the flickering lamplight of the lodge, the surviving counsellors, their faces pale and drawn, listened to the old caretaker's tale. He had arrived, drawn by their frantic calls, his wrinkled face a mask of grim understanding. Camp Blood Creek, he explained, harbored a dark secret. Decades ago, a young boy, a camper named Zayne, had drowned in the lake. His death ruled an accident. But rumors persisted. Rumors of bullying, of foul play, of a group of older boys who had targeted Zayne, their cruelty culminating in his tragic demise. Zayne's spirit, consumed by rage and vengeance, was said to haunt the camp, seeking retribution for his unjust fate. They had stumbled upon a place cursed by tragedy, a place where the past refused to stay buried. The air in the lodge was thick with fear and the weight of the caretaker's words. They were not just dealing with a flesh and blood killer, they were facing a vengeful spirit. Section 7. Trapped in terror, nowhere to run. The caretaker, his eyes filled with a mixture of pity and fear, shook his head. "There's no escaping him," he rasped, his voice heavy with resignation. "He's bound to this place, his anger fueling his power." He pointed to the boarded-up windows, the barricaded doors. "You can't keep him out, he's already inside." His words hung in the air, a death knell to their hopes of escape. The storm raged outside, mirroring the terror that gnawed at their insides. They were trapped, hunted by a vengeful spirit in a decaying camp miles from civilization. John, his sanity fraying, began to see Zayne everywhere, his eyes wide with terror, his voice a high-pitched whine. Lisa, lost in her grief and fear, retreated into herself, her artistic spark extinguished. And Sarah, her leadership faltering, struggled to maintain her composure, desperately clinging to a sliver of hope. But deep down, a chilling certainty settled in their hearts. They were not going to survive this night. Section 8. A desperate gamble, fighting for survival. The caretaker, his face etched with the weight of years spent guarding the secrets of Blood Creek, offered a glimmer of hope. "There might be a way," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "A way to appease Zayne's spirit, to break the cycle of violence." He spoke of a ritual, a way to communicate with the dead, to offer apologies and seek forgiveness. It was a long shot, a desperate gamble, but it was all they had left. Following the caretaker's instructions, they gathered in the old mess hall, its wooden floorboards creaking ominously under their feet. Candles flickered, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls as they arranged the objects of the ritual. A photograph of Zayne, a toy boat, a small wooden cross. The air grew heavy, charged with an unseen energy. A cold wind swept through the room, extinguishing the candles and plunging them into darkness. And then, a voice filled with rage and sorrow echoed through the hall. Zayne had arrived. Section 9, The Final Stand. A bloody confrontation. The spirit of Zayne, a swirling vortex of rage and despair, materialized in the center of the room. His eyes, filled with an unnatural light, burned with the intensity of 1,000 suns. The air crackled with energy as he relived the events of that fateful day, his voice a mixture of childish innocence and chilling malice. He spoke of the taunts, the shoves, the final horrifying moments as he struggled for air, his pleas for help ignored. Sarah, her heart pounding in her chest, stepped forward, her voice trembling but resolute. "We are so sorry, Zayne," she said, her words echoing in the silent hall. "We weren't there, but we hear your pain. We acknowledge your suffering." She offered him the toy boat, a symbol of his lost innocence. For a moment, the air hung heavy with anticipation. Zayne's form wavered, the intensity of his gaze flickering. Was he appeased? Had their words reached him? And then, with a deafening roar, the spirit of Zayne lashed out. Section 10. The curse lives on, a chilling conclusion. The old caretaker stood at the edge of the woods, watching as the sun rose over Camp Blood Creek. The storm had passed, leaving behind an eerie calm. The camp, silent and deserted, stood as a chilling reminder of the tragedy. The police had come and gone, their investigation inconclusive. The disappearances remained unexplained. But the caretaker knew the truth. He knew that the curse of Zayne lived on. He could feel it in the wind that whispered through the trees. As he turned to leave, a single red balloon drifted across his path. A shiver ran down his spine as he recognized the image printed on its surface. A cartoon ghost grinned back at him. Zayne was still here. And he was waiting. So next time you go to a camp, remember you're not alone. Please like and subscribe.